Well, hello. Welcome to the show, Dr. Janetta Rebold Benton.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful to have you. I remember I first reached out to you a few months back when Mitiga went through our rebranding, and we decided to integrate gargoyles and some related fonts and colors into our new brand. And I'm like, wonder if there's some experts out there on this topic. And when I started searching, oh my gosh, it was like you were everywhere. Books and talks and lectures, just like everything. I'm like, well, I'm going to reach out to Dr. Benton and see if this is something she'd be willing to do. And when you said yes, I was like, oh my god, I'm so excited because your background is so different than everybody else we've had on the show. So again, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, I assure you.
What I'd love for you to do, if you wouldn't mind, uh, please give us a little bit of background about how you came up in your field and your area of expertise, and maybe how you got into gargoyles as well.
I do a little bit of background in general about myself. Uh, I am the Distinguished Professor of Art History at Pace University in New York. Uh, I I was going to mention, since I do the photography myself for my books whenever I possibly can, I've lived in various places. A little over 4 years in Paris. I was the art historian at the American Embassy there. I've had two Fulbright Scholar Awards, so I was visiting professor in St. Petersburg, Russia, and then I was lucky enough to receive a second Fulbright and was a visiting professor in China, in Hangzhou, at the China Academy of Art Graduate School. In each case, I do love to travel. Uh, Academics tell you about their publications. That's what you are seeing behind me. Those are 10 books I've written. They've been translated into a variety of different languages, and I do not do the translating. That is always arranged by the publisher. Uh, I have an 11th book coming out September 1st, 2026. It's called What Makes Great Art, from Abbeville Press, and I'm under contract for another with Abbeville called The Devil's Domain. Uh, it, Hell, Sin, and Punishment, Images in Medieval Art. My area of specialization is medieval art. I do lecture about it. I lectured for the Metropolitan Museum of Art for decades. I lecture now for the Smithsonian in Washington, 92nd Street Y, and elsewhere. In terms of the book that is of relevance to this podcast, I've got a copy of it right here. And this is the cover girl, so to speak. And you're about to see her in her a more natural environment. And I suspect that's enough about me.
Well, what an amazing background. And I actually didn't realize that Hangzhou was where you were in China. I've visited a couple times there. I live in Lake Tahoe, and I always felt Hangzhou reminded me of Lake Tahoe. It's such a beautiful, beautiful area. And it's hard to say this, but I think some of the best restaurants in China might be around the lake in Hangzhou for sure.
Westlake is spectacular. And if you walked out on the balcony of the school's uh, main building, that was your view. You looked out on Westlake.
Wow, wow. What an amazing journey you've had. Well, you shared your book with us. What I'd really love to understand is what got you interested in gargoyles. Clearly, you came at this from a architecture, art history perspective, and all your amazing background. But what was it about gargoyles that really made you focus on that?
I think you're going to be surprised by the answer. I need to preface it by saying something about uh, other things that I've done. Education-wise, I took a degree in classical art. First, I did a BFA at Cornell. Then I did a degree in classical art at GW. Then I did my PhD in late medieval and early Renaissance. And then I have a diploma from a program at Harvard. But gargoyles, the Middle Ages, fascinate me. It's an intriguing era. And when we moved back from Paris, I was doing some research and lecturing at the Cloisters Museum. It's the Metropolitan Museum of Art's medieval branch in Fort Tryon Park, the northern tip of Manhattan Island. And the library there, the librarian asked me to write a book about gargoyles. She said, that way, all the people who kept coming in and pestering her for a book on gargoyles could be sent away. She could give them my book. So I and it was basically if I didn't do it, somebody else was going to do it. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as my book came out, there were a number of gargoyle books that appeared suddenly.
Well, before the show, we were chatting, and I found this to be really fascinating, is that within the book, the photography, these are actually photographs that you've taken, that you
Yeah.
you put in the book. These are your photos, which I thought were amazing, and you have a few of them that I'd love to share as we're going back and forth in our discussion. But maybe you could tell me, what exactly are gargoyles? Where did they originate, and what was their purpose? Or was it just to look scary, or did they actually do something?
They actually do something. And if they don't qualify as gargoyles. Correctly speaking, a gargoyle is a gutter. I describe it as a glorified gutter. A half cylinder would function equally as well. The purpose of a gargoyle is to throw the rainwater wide of the wall so that it doesn't run down the side of the building and erode the mortar between the stones. A gargoyle will always stick out. It has to project beyond the wall. But so what has happened, though, is that people use the term very freely, and things that are not genuinely gargoyles because they don't spout water, but yet they have the same grotesque physiognomy. Correctly speaking, those are grotesques. They are what I refer to as gargoyle wannabes, but they're not real. Unless you spout water, you are not a true gargoyle. They go all the way back in time, depending on how rigid, inclusive you are in your definition. But the idea of a water spout, of course, goes back through the millennia. In terms of what they look like, should I say something about that?
I'd love to hear it. Like I believe, is this the cover of your book? This photo here?
Oh, on the right, the one on the right is a detail of the overview on the left.
Got it.
It is what the publisher selected as the cover image. And yes, I do my own photography. And this was all done before digital photography. So I would travel with a very heavy camera. And the heaviest thing would have been the glass in the telephoto lens and all the bricks, as they're called, of film. Um, all these gargoyles are up there. So it's a matter of uh, looking up constantly. I handhold. I don't use a tripod. I also don't drink coffee or tea before I'm going to photograph. I hope that it's not too windy, and I simply photograph. It was basically resting on my forehead much of the
Oh,
time.
wow. Wow.
They're all above your vision, your line of vision, and many of these would have been visually inaccessible to the people of the Middle Ages who didn't have telephoto lenses. They didn't have, you know, binoculars. They didn't, for the most part, even have eyeglasses. And that is part of the curiosity. But the belief was that God is everywhere, that God can see everything. So even if these creatures are inaccessible to us visually, they are available to God's eyes.
That was going to be my follow-on question, which was, well, if nobody can see them, why do it? But you explain that beautifully in their reasoning behind it. Is this one in Paris? Is this actually functional? Would water come out the mouth of this gargoyle after a rain?
Yeah, in theory, yes. Yes. I try to photograph when it's not raining, although I have some pictures in the book that were purposely taken during a rainstorm as I'm there under my umbrella trying to get these photographs to make the point that they are actual functional gargoyles. The image that just came on now, uh, there is a whole group of what art historians call mouth pullers in medieval art. Some use both hands, some use only one finger, and you find this imagery used for gargoyles. And what I would ask people to do is try to imagine what this looks like when it's raining heavily, because the gargoyles look, of course, as if they're vomiting, and they're not happy about it. And my explanation for this is that uh, they're forced to drink water. Only water flows through their mouths when there are far better beverages to be found in France and the other countries where they're to be found. If you're hunting gargoyles, they're all over Western Europe, but in fact, France is the richest location. And I had been living there, so it all worked very smoothly for me.
It all came together. Well, that's amazing and scary. There's definitely a fear factor to some of these gargoyles. But what is it that you think? I mean, gargoyles have been featured in movies and television and cartoons, and they're really part of popular culture. But why? How these grotesque water spouts become this, in some cases, beloved creature that we're seeing in some of these films and TV?
As you mentioned that, one of the things that the publisher did with some of the images from that book, from Holy Terrors, was to make a little doll. And they wrote a little story to go with it. I've got copies up there on my shelf. So they did turn it into popular culture. They also produced a calendar and postcards and note cards. But in regard to that, there is an aspect, a component, something within us that causes us to be fascinated by the horrible, things that are grotesque, things that we know are going to upset us. Why do we have to look when there's an accident? Why will we stand in line and pay money for a frightening horror movie? We do this. We go out of our way. We pay good money to be frightened. So there is a certain attraction in things that are horrible. This is a group of a gaggle of gargoyles, and these are the images that may be in your nightmares that you hope will be gone upon waking.
Well, they're in my nightmares now.
No, I'm sorry. Some of the gargoyles are actually quite charming. They're not all truly frightening, and that I don't know if you want me to get into sort of their physiognomy, their meaning, but
Yeah, let's do that. Let's dive in, because one of the questions I actually had was some definitely look a little bit more human-like. These clearly are a little bit more animal-like. But I was also wondering, are there male and female gargoyles? Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
among the uh, recognizable actual creatures, humans are very rare. Ones that are completely human. You can see that some of these have humanoid back legs. Sometimes they'll have a human head. So there are a few that are actually humans. There are more that are actual recognizable known animals. The dog and the lion are the most popular. The lion is the most frequently depicted animal in medieval art because it's associated with Jesus Christ. It's the king of the beasts. Always the first animal in the medieval bestiary, the book of beasts. But statistically, the vast majority are monstrous creatures like the ones I'm showing you here. And some are what I call composite creatures. They are made out of recognizable parts of actual animals very often, but combined in ways unknown to Mother Nature, impossible combinations of creatures. And that is part of their appeal. It's just free reign for fantasy. The vast majority of art created during the Middle Ages was religious, in Christian religious art. The church was a major patron of the arts, and the vast majority of people were illiterate. So basically the Bible was painted or carved in stone as a way of teaching. It's meant to be didactic art. Certainly, you have the gargoyles fitting into that category depending on how you interpret them. So here you have a group of them that I put together to show you the different body parts that could be used to create a gargoyle. Because so much of the art is religious in nature, there is a, a limited number of subjects that were depicted. There's a certain repertoire of subjects that are simply repeated. And in doing those, because you're dealing with an illiterate audience, you need to make them sufficiently similar one to the next so that people can recognize what is going on. It means that the artist's artistic license, so to speak, had major restrictions on it. The gargoyles were the exception to that. The sculptors had free rein to create whatever they wanted. And when you find some of the gargoyles that are that don't use their mouth to spew their water, that use the opposite end of the
Yes.
digestive tract,
Understood.
they are not in plain view, and yet you will find them on the church because the gargoyles were basically carved, for the most part, down in the yard, the sculptor's yard, and then they're hoisted up and put in place. They're enormously heavy. And if you wonder why doesn't it fall on you, it's because there's a counterbalancing weight of stone that you don't see inside the wall.
I see. Interesting. So that does explain quite a bit. So they had a lot of artistic freedom in the creation of this, at least from what the church would dictate was their limits. So that would explain it. Because I always thought it was very interesting that you would see these on churches, but they didn't seem very church-like. Like this one up on top, is that a dragon or is it fish scales? What are we looking at there?
I think that the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and you should decide how you wish to define it. They often have wings, frequently have wings, and the wings may be bird-like. In this case, I think they look like leaves. Sometimes you can be quite precise as to what the source of inspiration was, and yet you'll find birds with four legs,
Yeah.
things that can't possibly have ever existed, or presumably never existed.
Well, to me, the first two looks like a dragon and a monkey. The last one looks like a bat, but the third one looks like Alf from the 1980s TV show Alf. So I'm guessing that's not related, but it definitely has that look to it. Very, very interesting. Well, I'm wondering, Dr. Benton, are there some interesting stories or sort of, legends about some of these gargoyles? Are there one or a group of gargoyles that kind of sit above all the rest as having a lot of mystique around them?
Sit above is very appropriately expressed. That's what they do. They're always up above. They edge the ledge of buildings. And by the way, you never find them singly. They are gregarious. You find them in groups, always. And in all the gargoyles I've looked at, I've never found two that were identical. They do fall into certain categories, but no two are actually identical. In terms of what you just asked me, there is a story that I would relate to you because I like it, perhaps written by Richard de Forneval, who was a 13th century bishop of Amiens, the city of Amiens in Paris. And he says that there were two gargoyles on the gateway to the city. The gateway no longer survives, which is regrettable, but he said that there were two gargoyles that were said to be able to evaluate the motivation of each person who entered the city. Upon those who came with bad intentions, the gargoyles spit deadly venom, but when the lord of the city arrived, and evidently this was a good lord, one of the gargoyles threw down gold and the other threw down silver. Well, these gargoyles are described, it's very specific, as made of copper. It's possible that they were actually automated. So gargoyles can serve certain purposes.
Now that's fascinating. And I had mentioned to you earlier, this top gargoyle reminds me of a basset hound, clearly because of its ears. But based on what you said earlier, there's a combination of human and animal characteristics that are sort of meshed together in a lot of these gargoyles.
Not there's not a single gargoyle that I think I could ever describe using the adjective of pretty or beautiful. They are not. It's exactly the opposite, and it's there are a whole list of possible explanations for the purpose of gargoyles to the medieval mind, and one is that they're made so ugly as a way of scaring away evil. Gargoyles are meant to be watchful creatures. They are always there. They never sleep. They never close their eyes. They are described by some people as guardian figures, which is, I believe, linked to your choice of gargoyles for your uh, emblem, your mascot.
I really think that that's what drew us to the gargoyle when we decided to use that for our mascot, and also the name Argus, all-seeing. You know, this stoic watcher to protect and secure everything below. And you know, as our company, we focus on cloud security, so there's almost this view looking down into, you know, the organizations and their data and their interconnections with other groups. It seemed very well positioned. And we went back and forth a lot. Would this be something that would resonate with people? Does it make sense? Are we trying to put a square peg in a round hole? But based on how you've explained these to me, I really think we made a good choice in using a gargoyle as our mascot and choosing Argus to represent Mitiga.
I, of course, agree with you. The Notre Dame de Paris, the Cathedral of Paris, has a multitude of gargoyles, and it said that they keep watch for possible drowning victims in the river Seine. So there they are up above looking down and protecting people. That's
Wow.
you.
Wow. That is so great. Well, Dr. Benton, this has been an absolutely fascinating tour of gargoyles. If people would like to get a copy of your book, what's the best
Oh,
way for them to do that?
I'd be delighted. The publisher is Abbeville. It's not a new book. It appears in, there's also a French translation of it.
And that the name of that book is Holy Terrors. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Holy
Wow.
Terrors, Gargoyles on Medieval Buildings.
Wonderful.
By the way,
Wonderful.
it says not, it does not say uh, medieval gargoyles for a very specific reason, which is that so many of them have actually been recarved. They may be actual recent gargoyles. All the gargoyles on Notre Dame de Paris that I just mentioned, Viollet-le-Duc redid many of those. The ones that are photographed most frequently are not medieval. They
Oh,
are
I
later.
see.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you about these photos. Are these more modern gargoyles, or are these actually medieval ones? They they feel a little bit different than the other ones we've seen.
And it can be very hard to say because there is no part of a medieval building, a church, a cathedral, that is more likely to be gradually decayed by the environment than a gargoyle because it has water that runs through its mouth. So from the inside, it is decayed, and it has that trough in its back. So from the outside, it is subject to the elements. It sticks out beyond everything else. There have been efforts made to preserve some of these. Some have metal pipes put into their mouths. Some are wearing, I have some examples in the book, like a metal cape to protect them. There's one where a pipe has been installed beside it so the water doesn't actually run through it, but down beside it. It is a reason that I think that it would be great if somebody would do a systematic photographing of all the gargoyles before they decay any further, any more than they already have.
Wow. Wow. Such a amazing history. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your vast amount of knowledge on this topic. It's so unique and it's so interesting. And I hope everyone goes out and gets a copy of one of your many books, but certainly The Holy Terrors, which is very relevant to today's conversation.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, welcome, or thank you again for being part of Mitiga Mic.